You think I'm pretty without any makeup on. You think I'm funny when I tell the punchline wrong. I know you get me, so I let my walls come down.
What do you think of when you hear the phrase public school student?
I'm speechless.
A little, like, not as wealthy, maybe comes from, like, not as good of a background as people from private school.
I guess tough.
Tough.
Pot.
Sex, drugs, and Friday Night Football.
Probably minorities, mostly, but I mean, not necessarily.
Diversity. You got a lot of different kind of students.
Before you met me, I was alright, but things were kinda heavy. You brought me to life now every February.
What about private school students?
My walls come down, down. Before you met me,
Preppy and rich. I guess that's a stereotype.
Good answer.
You hear.
They're probably a lot richer than I am. That's what I think of.
Preppy, rich.
Like here, like you see a lot of people with different clothings without like name brands and everything, while in like a private school you see a lot more people with name brands than other things. Like personally, I just go to Marshall's and shop there.
Yeah.
While other people like go to like fancy like antique places and everything,
Yeah.
like Aeropostale.
Money.
I was alright, but things were kinda heavy. You brought me to life now every February. You'll be my Valentine.
What do you think are the differences between a public and private school?
You have better teachers that care about you in a private school and people who just want to get paid in a public school.
Big classes.
No, I think the teachers will probably be worse. I feel like I might not learn as much, / not get as much attention from the teachers as I need.
Well, for a public school, you don't have to pay.
Okay. Do you think that you get a better education at a private school because you have to pay?
Well, I don't think that's the reason, but I'm not sure because I've never been to a public school.
I think we got like more like inner city people than public schools. I don't know.
More open, more students, better social interactions. People are like more willing to talk to each other, like interact.
Definitely, like there's a lot more fights that happen in this school, like there's drugs, everything that is different. There's so many people that get suspended each day by just like going in the parking lot. You can get suspended by doing other stuff. Like there's at least so many students getting suspended. Like right now they're doing like immediate SAC, where there's at least 60 students in SAC right now each day.
Wow.
We have to go in audit training. That's how many, like for so many late to get SAC. So there's at least 60 people in each SAC.
Let's go all the way tonight. No regrets, just love. We can dance until we die, you and I.
Private school students are there because they want to be there. That's the myth. Whereas public school students are here because they have to be here. And then teacher-wise, I would probably say that public school teachers are probably better compensated. That's what you're asking.
Mm-hmm.
And then that private school teachers are more qualified or highly qualified.
Do you think there's a difference between the students who go to a public school versus the students who go to a private school?
Well, I think it goes back to, the investment of a dollar, and the fact that the students are there because their parents send them because they are going to go on to do something. Not that the public school students can't, but I think anytime you attach money to anything, and you're invested in it, you want a return on what you're invested in.
In public school, I would be teaching larger classes. Now, this was in England, so it's rather different over there, but it's the same basic premise. I was more aware of the fact that the classes would be larger than I expected them to be in the private school. The rest of it, all the other stuff that I now know as a result of having taught in both types of school, I didn't know when I was starting out.
And then I think this concept that students can be kicked out is really important. If they don't care, sorry, there's a road. If you can't get the material, if you're not committed to it, then, or if you break the rules, you know, attendance isn't a problem, behavior is usually not a problem. And half of what we do in the public schools is dealing with attendance and behavior, and a lack of investment or involvement by parents.
It's more the individual teacher, because you can find good teachers and bad teachers in both private and public school. I'd say public school, it's harder probably to remove a teacher because of unions, and I'm not sure if private schools have that.
You have a great deal of testing, of statewide testing that's being done several times a year. So you have to teach in a way that allows your students to have the best chance in those tests, and the tests themselves often limit what you can do in the time available. Whereas here we have, and in most private schools, you have considerably more freedom when it comes to the creation of curriculum.
Yeah, you guys have heard you teach to the test now, right? That's the new saying. It doesn't affect me because I'm an electives teacher, but I could definitely see that impacting primary classes like English, math, social studies, and science. If you have to have your students score a certain grade on the test, it definitely impacts you. What the state's added though is DCAS testing to compare schools across, I guess, kind of on a level playing field, to show whether or not students are performing adequately.
And the biggest difference is, I think, respect. You know, a teacher is respected, and students kind of give respect at a private school. There's a mutual sense that you're there to learn. You know, you're paying for your dollar, so you're there to learn, and that the education process is valuable. And I think that's the biggest part of the whole idea, especially in education, is that there's a value to it, you know, for your dollar.
If you had a choice, would you go to a public or private school?
You want to teach? Like, what type of school would you want to teach at?
I don't think it's where, I think it's what kind of student. I'd want to teach the students that want to be there and want to learn the subject. I just don't want students who are in it for the credit because they need the credit to graduate. And I'd want to have administration that supports us, and you can get that in private or public. And I would tell you that, in general, the other myth about the students, I would say that students are students. You're going to have good and bad in both schools.
Politically, personally, as a teacher, I would be teaching in public schools if I were able to teach the subject the way I believe it should be taught, and in the ways that I think best suit young people learning my subject. The problem with teaching in public school was that you're asked usually to work according to a curriculum that's been decided at the district level, over which you have relatively little control. So you don't have a lot of autonomy. I want it to work in a situation where I could teach the subject the way I thought it ought to be taught.
Yeah, I'd probably get a better education here than if I were to at a public school. So yeah, that's my answer.
It depends what state.
That's true.
That's good, man. That's good.
Okay, good answer.
Delaware sucks. PA, good.
Probably private school, you get a lot more, like, public school, you have to, like, really try to be an outstanding student, like, and get your place in here, while, like, in a private school, like, you also have more opportunities, different things to do, like Tower Hill, like, you have so many more opportunities than we do.
Yeah.
Well, it depends on the curriculum of private school, but if it's the same as a public school, then I choose public school over a private school.
Well, I had the chance to go to a private school, and I chose public, so I'd rather go to a public school. Well, the school that I was going to, my brother and sister went there, and I really didn't like the people there, so that's why I chose. Wait, what school was it? Caravel. Caravel.
Okay.
For people who went to both, what is your opinion?
Since you've attended public school and private school, which one do you like better? Which one do you prefer, and why?
Private school, get a lot more freedom.
More freedom.
More freedom at private school?
Yeah, you guys get like free periods and shit.
Yeah, they have to stay in study halls.
No, we're not even allowed to have study.
In a public school, we're just being watched all the time, and there we have so much free time. Like they just give you time. While in the public school, the teachers are watching almost every movement, just to make sure nothing will break out or anything like that. That's the main difference.
Say it. We won't be offended.
I thought you were a bunch of rich snobs.
And has that like stereotype been changed
Yes.
by actually being here?
Yes, it actually has. I don't think you guys are snobs. Might be rich still, but private school offers so much more.
Here there's different classes, and that's why I came here for middle school, because they have like leveled classes and it's not just all the kids in one group. They were rich and white and snobby.
Did that stereotype get broken after coming here?
Partially.
Okay.
I mean,
recognized from doing this project was that being in a public school, I noticed that no one really realized that we didn't belong there. And I feel like in public school you have less of an identity because there's so many people there, where at private school you know everyone and a pretty good amount about them.
What I took out of this project was I definitely disagree with the notion that people who go to private school definitely want to be here, whereas public school students have to be there. Some kids don't necessarily want to be here, but they have to be here. And then also at public school, I felt like you were a number. Like a lot of kids didn't even recognize that we didn't go to the school. We asked a kid about psych class or something. He thought we were talking about his psych class. He didn't know what we were talking about. So.
Well, what I got from this experience was when we were talking to the computer teacher, he kept like cracking jokes that we weren't getting release forms in case we wanted to sell this video. And he said, well, if you went to a public school, you would know this. And it kind of made me think, you know, like, so apparently he's teaching his students, or he feels that at a public school you get an education that teaches you like how to do a job better, as opposed to, you know, just kind of learning so you could further your education. So that's what I got out of it. John, come back. Taylor Van.
Okay, answer the question. Did I edit that shit out? Well, that's personal.
Guys, shut up!
Oh yeah.
We're still recording. Just that, what comes to mind when we say public school?
Fine. Stop! You're getting that too close.
Because you're talking about a public school experience while you're wearing a private school shirt.
Is that your final answer?
Watch math and yes.
I'll edit it out. Okay.